Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning into this latest episode of Startups Unedited. Today I'm joined by John Andrews, who's co-founder and CEO at the rocket ship Cimulate, really moving the needle and innovating in the agentic commerce space, which we'll dive into here in a second. John, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, George. I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So for the folks out there, I'll give you kind of a couple links to look up John's background, but this is not John's first rodeo. He's built several companies and has exited two organizations like Nike, has been an executive at Oracle, and just a lot of other really impressive sort of milestones in his career. But today I wanted to dive into a couple things. So I wanted to talk about that since you've been so successful, from my perspective, just having known you now for about 14, 15 months now, you're basically batting 100, right? You're doing incredible. You've accomplished things that most founders just never get to, right? Entrepreneurs never get to. So I wanted to start off by asking you some of the advice that you would give those early stage founders who are trying to build world class teams, because I think all of us who have been involved in this game long enough know that it's about the team, right?
Totally.
And maybe we can start off with kind of that first team, which is selecting, vetting, and building that founding team.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate congrats on the success, et cetera. It's funny, the definition of success and like what defines that in people's minds is always interesting. Like I feel like I've been very blessed in terms of working with really good people. Back at my time at Endeca, right, where I kind of started there as a product manager, coming out of consulting and graduate school, which kind of really laid the foundation for the spirit of entrepreneurship, right? And then, with Select and joining on with two really talented MIT professors with a great idea and great technology, and coming in as CEO and being able to grow that. That's a company we sold to Nike. And then starting Cimulate with one of those MIT professors, Vivek Farias. And we have recently signed an agreement to be acquired by Salesforce, and we can talk more about that in a minute. But it's one of these things where it's hard work, it's timing, it's luck, right? The harder I work, the luckier I get, kind of thing as well. So I'm not just saying it's all luck, but there's a lot of factors that go into it, and it's not lost on me that this stuff is really, really hard. And being able to have a couple of opportunities to take our technology and the company that we've built and get it into a larger organization, to give it further legs has really been a fun ride. To your question in terms of advice for founders, and as you're kind of thinking through it, and you mentioned the team, yeah, without a doubt, like the number one thing, if you're going to found a company, some people take the approach as like, hey, I'm the founder, and then I'm going to get some contractors around me, and then maybe some early partners, but you kind of have a single founder. I've really liked having a co-founder, right? And I think it's really important, but finding the right one, and the person that you get along with on a personal level, right? That you understand that person, that they understand you, that you respect each other, which I think is really important, and respect what each of you brings to the table as part of the, as part of the initiative and as part of the startup. And that you can have very open conversations about things, right? And so at Cimulate, Vivek and I have had, we've had a great relationship for coming up on 12 years at this point, which is kind of crazy to me to think that it's been that long. And we've been through now kind of working at 4 different companies, overall, if we include Salesforce. Vivek and I have very complementary skills. And so I'm more on the business side, building out the team, on the product side. He's on the technology side, and is really good commercially, really good with customers, really good with the engineering and data science team, and building kind of world-class technology. And so we've been really successful in terms of merging our skill sets together. So I would say that is clearly number one. Number two is just the early employees that you bring in, and folks who kind of sign up for the mission of what we're doing, and willing to just got to put their heads down and figure it out. Because early days, you're really not sure exactly. You have an idea, right? But you're starting to test it out. And every early interaction with, a customer or development partner, feels like a make or break event for the company. And you got to have people that you sign on with that are like willing to do that with you, right? And be in the trenches. If you can, and you're successful doing that, like the payoff of that is like, yeah, the company is, going to have some success, but you also build bonds with these people that you'll have forever, right? And you'll remember like being in the trenches in those early days and, be able to reflect on that at some point when the company is much larger and much bigger. And if you have some sort of kind of event or kind of, inflection point to the next stage of growth, you'll always have that. I think the final thing I'll say, just in terms of advice, is, there are highs and lows, right? And I think the really, one of the key things is don't let enjoy the highs, right? But don't let them distract you too much, and don't let the lows get too low, right? Every little thing is not going to be the make or break moments of the company, and you got to be like, okay, this is happening. How are we going to deal with it, right? What do we do? And just kind of hunker down and figure it out. Just put your head down. Don't get too emotional about those lows, because it can be crippling, right? So just hang in there and figure it out.
Do you have any practices or advice for those early stage CEOs to be able to actually have that demeanor? And that's one of the things that I've really admired about you, having had an opportunity to be along for the journey and participate in the Simulate experience up to now. I've been able to see that you are just like super even keel, right? Like I know that there's a lot of stuff going on all the time because that's just life and the nature, particularly of a startup. But I've just always seen you just even keel and never rattled. Is there anything that you're doing in particular? Are any practices and these sort of things that maybe
I
are
wish there
outside of the common knowledge?
Yeah, I wish there were. I wish I could say like I meditate or like, um there's, some particular practice. I think a lot of it is personality, right? And just how are you wired? Some people are wired to like where they get the energy of like something comes up and they just go frantic, like, but that's how they deal with it. And that works, it works for them. I'm very much like I am like I try to be very even keeled. I try to make sure like those around me don't see anything that's just like, wow, this must be really bad, or like, John's reacting in a certain way. That said, right, if something comes up and you need to react a little more energetically, I can do that as well. And I can, I do think that's important, right? When people do need to see the energy, I just think, how I live my life in general, it's more of a stoic attitude where, it, you know, it's not what happens to you, right? It's how you deal with it, and it's how you kind of adjust and move forward, to kind of still stay on track to whatever the end goal is, even if the goalposts, shift a little bit.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, John. I got to say that, again, that is something that I admire. And I know that it may seem, sort of baked into your personality, but I got to just tell you, having worked with hundreds of founders and leaders over the last 20, 25 years or so, it's certainly a special quality I've seen in you, and the team has really observed that, just having had conversations, quite a few conversations with folks internally, and it's one of the things they admire. I wanted to kind of transition into the agentic commerce category, particularly maybe starting off with sort of understanding, if you had to explain the current state of generative AI as we think about that movement now, because we all know AI has been around for quite a while, but this current iteration, which seems to be changing every 30 days or so, is really something special. How would you sort of categorize the current state of generative AI as it relates to the commerce space?
Yeah. So it's a great question. It is like it's crazy out there right now, right? Like this technology is, it's funny. Like I'll have this conversation with my wife, who is in retail, right? She's a merchant. She's a VP in retail organization. Has been in retail most of her career. And I try to explain like just how transformative this technology is. Like they had the birth of the commercial internet. We had mobile, we had social, right? There's blockchain and crypto and all these other kind of inflection points that you've seen in terms of these big, big impactful technologies coming to bear. And I have not seen anything as impactful and transformative as what we're seeing with large language models right now since the birth of the like commercial internet, right? Like the mid to late 90s, which is kind of crazy. Just what is possible and what it can enable, people are still getting their heads around, right? And it's moving incredibly fast. So I think like what's the state? I think the state right now is a lot of retailers and brands and B2B and B2C commerce folks trying to just understand what do they need to focus on, right? What are some of the most important things? I think if we step back a little bit, I think we can clearly say that the future is agentic. Like I think we're just at a point where it's really hard to argue with that, right? You just start to see just the uptake of people using in their day-to-day and increasingly more products like ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and how they use it personally as an assistant to them, right? But then you're going to start to see these agentic workflows, right? And where, yes, it's going to be able to communicate because of how large languages work from a language perspective. It's going to be able to communicate kind of conversationally with you. It's going to be able to mimic certain personalities, certain personas. But then it's going to have these kind of agentic workflows have access to certain tools at their disposal, right? To be able to, pull certain information to include within, if you want to make like, if I want to make dinner reservations with for somewhere with my wife tomorrow night, because I haven't gotten around to doing it yet, you can have an agent that goes off and kind of does that for you, right? If you think about it from a retail and a commerce perspective, imagine, we've had chat bots helping with customer service for a while. The increase in efficacy of those chat bots that are now kind of LLM backed agent based is like, it's just night and day from a rule-based chatbot to what an LLM-based agent can actually do. And what we're delivering to customers at Cimulate is an experience that is more like a shopping assistant, right? Which we think is the harder part, right? Like understanding what products a customer really is looking for when they're on the website. It's like, hey, I like the kind of a loose, soft feeling kind of flannel button-down sweatshirt. I like the ones that Faraday has, their Legend shirt. Do you have, what else is out there? And do you have something like that? Like being able to describe something with your specific context and intent and have an agent understand that at a very deep level and come back to you with the best answer possible to help you find what you're looking for. But in this agent, you can also ask like, hey, I've got to make a return, or hey, what's the status of my order? When is it going to be delivered? We can do integrations within that kind of conversational chatbot to help them find the right products, but then also do an integration in with, Narvar, which, manages the shipping information and any other back-end order management system that they have to be able to pull this information in and have one kind of consolidated view. And this is all just kind of on the commerce, side on the customer's website. The second thing that they need to be thinking about is for these agentic models from like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and people using those models and those kind of foundational models and sites as a way to shop, right? And that being a new front door into how people learn about products, right? And how they get educated on what the best products are out there based on what the internet is saying about them. And these models do a really good job of consolidating a lot of that information. And especially for high consideration products, like, hey, I want to buy a new mountain bike, or I'm going to buy a new stereo system for, wireless, stereo system for, throughout my house or whatever, right? Or for a couple of rooms. They do a really good job of helping you kind of understand and think through what are the considerations. But then at some point, they're going to direct you to like, hey, you should go buy it at, at one of these retailers, or go to Bose or go to Sonos, right? And here's a link, and they're going to start having these kind of relationships and connections with the retailers. But for now, retailers need to understand what's happening on those sites and how to get more of that traffic or referral traffic into their sites, so customers then buy their products. That was a lot, but hopefully kind of gave you a sense of kind of what the state of the market is right now.
Absolutely. And towards kind of the end there, you were really, I think, dialing into what seems to be such a hot topic just in general, really outside of retail even, and that is that GEO, AEO stuff, right? Or AI search. I know we're still trying
Yep.
to kind of settle on a
Yeah.
category name there. But if you think about the interface, right? So we talked about, Claude or ChatGPT being kind of the entry point to the commerce experience that then leads them to the retailer's brand website on domain. Are there any sort of considerations that maybe executives should take into account? Because I think there may be some fear around the fact that some of that traffic might not be going to their website now because
Yeah.
it's on
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
Cloud or ChatGPT or
Yeah.
et cetera platform.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
how can kind of executives wrap their head around understanding, hey, that's okay. Like here's the kind of downstream effect of that.
Yeah. I feel like right now I'm having 1 to 2 conversations a day with a retail executive on this topic, right? And I usually start off the conversation with just saying like, hey, we don't know exactly how all of this is going to play out, right? We know some information today, but it's moving incredibly fast, and it's going to change tomorrow, right? Or, in a couple of weeks. And so our perspective is, with what we know today, how can we help those retailers, those executives gain visibility and insights into, how are these foundation models, how's ChatGPT deciding what products to put in front of one of their customers when they're looking for, a new mountain bike, right? On their, through ChatGPT. And we know some information now, and we simulate, some behaviors, because like our name, we have a very strong kind of simulation engine. We simulate some of these kind of interactions with these foundation models to understand, can we figure out what matters most so that our customers can enhance their product data? They can enhance the information that they kind of send and allow these, foundation models to crawl, right? Or kind of integrate in their product catalog, so that given what we know today, they can get, as high up within that list. Vivek, my co-founder, has done some research within this space, some of the, very early and kind of leading research here. The reality is that in a couple of months, it's probably going to change, because even ChatGPT doesn't know. Like they just want to right now provide the best answer so that customers feel like they're getting an unbiased experience, right? Some of these guys have called out recently that they're going to start putting ads, right? Because they have to monetize it. They have valuations that are like unworldly, so they have to start monetizing some of this. And whether it's through change in ranking, or some paid ads off to the side, that's all gonna change over the coming months as they figure it out. And for us, it's just helping retailers. And my advice to retailers is just keep doing what you can today, but don't lock in too much, because it's going to change tomorrow, right? And I think this GEO stuff, AEO stuff, it's going to evolve more like SEO and the infrastructure. There are going to be agencies that help and kind of ongoing help customers, make sure that they're ranking higher. There'll be some technology like we're building to support it, to support in some of that visibility and insight, and help them make better use of their marketing funds, and get as much free referrals as they can by providing the best data and products out there. But just keep trying different things, but don't lock yourself too much in, and be comfortable with the fact that it's going to evolve and going to change pretty quickly.
I remember roughly a year ago, we were chatting and you had mentioned going to the Google Cloud Conference, I believe it was. I
Yeah.
think it was Las Vegas.
Yeah.
and there
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
that protocol that had just been announced. Now I know that at least from sort of the consumer side, I haven't really seen agent to agent
Yeah.
stuff, happening.
Yeah.
But do we have to, as retailers, as just consumers, as entrepreneurs building stuff, should we keep that top of mind, or is that kind of far enough into the future that maybe we shouldn't prioritize it just yet?
No, I think you have to. There are some lightweight things that you can do, right, to be ready for that kind of agent to agent type of experience. And you can think of this as just very simply as, ChatGPT hitting your website, right? Going to, Paxson.com because somebody on their site is asking for, surfwear for a teenage girl. And so Paxson is a great option and a great brand that, that they should, would that customer would be, would be interested in. There's some lightweight things you can do, like you can set up an MCP server. Okay. And this is, one of the early protocols put out there by Anthropic initially, that many folks have kind of signed on to and are pushing. And it's just it's a standard protocol. It's a pretty thin layer, but what it does is it exposes an interface into the brand from that agent from those different foundation models for this agent to agent communication. And we set this up for every one of our customers, right? So that they have an MCP server, but it needs to be registered, and the infrastructure around that, it really isn't there yet, right? And this kind of A to A and kind of the overall agentic to agentic, we're seeing some of that increase. It's going to increase pretty rapidly once it gets going. I think for now, there are lightweight things that are not huge investments that are just kind of no brainers for retailers to engage in.
John Andrews, thank you so much. Co-founder and CEO at Cimulate. Congratulations on all your success across your career, but also within the context of Cimulate, just some really, really exciting things going on. If folks wanted to learn more about Cimulate or maybe follow some of your content, what are the best channels to reach you?
Yeah, I mean, the best is simulate.ai. Go to our website. We've got some great content on there, and there are links within our content center. There are links out to a YouTube channel that we have where we've got a bunch of videos that, some that I've done, but more importantly, more that Vivek, my co-founder, has done. He's the professor, and he's really good at just simplifying kind of complex topics and concepts into very kind of simple and understandable elements that people can grok pretty quickly. So I would definitely go there and learn more. And George, I do want to say thank you for being you and everything that you do. I love this podcast and appreciate being here. But also just know your skill as a marketer and what you're able to do. So it's been a real pleasure, getting to know you more.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. And I just wanted to give the team a shout out once again. When you talk about building the team, and I've seen a couple startups really have incredible outcomes like Cimulate has had. And there are some common patterns. And, that team, that quality team that is not only super excited, inspired, and brilliant, but has, just kind of the holistic package, have incredible academic backgrounds. You mentioned Vivek with MIT, but just the team in general, it's really impressive. So just wanted to give the
Thank you.
team another quick shout out as we wrap up here today.
Awesome. Thanks. Appreciate it. They are special, and they are the reason of any success that we've had. It all comes back to the team.
Incredible. Well, have a wonderful day, and thanks so much for being on the show again.
Thanks, George. Appreciate it.